Okay, yeah. So good evening, everybody. My name is Nigel Kennington. I'm a dairy advisor in the Teagasc office in Kilkenny, and I'm just going to demonstrate tonight how to use the Sire Advice program on ICBF, I suppose, with a particular emphasis on selecting bulls available in sex semen and also picking out dairy beef index sires as well. So look, I suppose before we start, in order to avail of the Herd Plus, or sorry, the Sire Advice program, you must be signed up to Herd Plus. It does require a small subscription, but it's well worth the small money that it is, and even just to use this program alone, you and make good use of it would be enough to justify the subscription. So look at when you excuse me. When you get into your ICBF account and you have your logins, your screens here as a farmer will show up with these options here. So I suppose just before we move on to the sire advice, Sandra was demonstrating where we pick out cows to breed from. We have a view profiles option here. If we go across to dairy and we have milk recording lifetime, that's the report. That's where we find that report that Sandra was mentioning earlier, where we really get the value out of our milk recording by picking the cows that we're hoping to breed from. But I'm just going to demonstrate today or tonight the Sire Advice program. So where we want to go is to applications across the top in the blue strip. And we want to go across to Sire Advice, okay? So we're going applications and then Sire Advice, and that'll bring us to this home screen here. Okay, and so just before we get into the program, I suppose a few key points. So Sandra would have shown you the EBI scorecard report, and that's showing up for the individual herd on this front page. So it's a great time just to have a quick look, see where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses, and where do I want to go in terms of the future genetics of my herd. So that's a great report just to have a quick look at before we make any further decisions on the breeding. And if we scroll down a little bit further, I suppose the tool is designed to help us to pick bulls. So the question is, how many bulls do we need to pick for a herd? So depending on your herd size, the larger herds will have a requirement to pick more bulls. And basically the reasoning for that is we just don't want to be putting all of our eggs in a small number of bulls baskets. Because if reliabilities were to reduce, we'd have a lot of our eggs in one basket on that front. So look at your general 100 to 200 cow herd is going to have a requirement for 8 to 10 bulls to pick as part of a team. And not only do we need to pick a number of bulls, most herds or most farms are good at picking the right number of bulls, but it's about even usage across the bulls in that team. There's no point in having 10 bulls and having half the straws from one bull within that 10. We need to have 10% of each bull within that team if we're picking 10 bulls. So look at, I suppose, to get into the program, we're going to run Sire Advice Plus. So it's the green button there, and we're just going to go start. Um, so that's going to bring us to the first screen, which is the female selection. So as we're saying now, I suppose we're into an era now where the expansion phase for the majority, I suppose, has ceased, and we're into more of a consolidation phase for most herds out there. So in that scenario, we're not in the still in the scenario of breeding every single animal to breed a dairy replacement of. We're allowed to be a bit more selective now, and if we want to make quicker genetic gain and really focus in on the gains that we can make, we need to breed our best cows only to the best bulls available. So that's how we'll maximize our genetic gain going forward. And as Sandra has mentioned, sex semen has the potential to even further increase that. So look at, I suppose, what's coming up on this first screen here is all the females available within this herd. So we have the option, as Sandra has mentioned, to go in and identify our poorer performing cows and select those out potentially for beef matings. So you see here the options we have on the blue pluses over on the side, on the right hand side. We can select out a certain number of cows that we're going to breed only to beef. And what the program will do here is it won't allocate a dairy straw to those animals that we select out for beef. So for the majority of herds, especially those that are milk recording. You know, that bottom 20% of cows, they're the ones that show up in the red boxes on that lifetime milk recording report. You know, they're your go-to cows to select out for beef straight off the bat. We also have the EBI figures feeding across here, which are a good guide, I suppose, for those who wouldn't have the milk recording information. To select out our poor performing stock. So look at, I suppose, as you're going along, the important thing is if we're selecting out cows for beef here, that we just save our changes as we go along, um, uh, just to make sure that we don't lose it. So we also have the option there to pick out our culls, and that will mean that no bulls will be allocated to those animals. Or if we want to pick out certain animals for crossbreeding, we can do that also. So I suppose just to show you the filters section at the start as well, if there's a particular cow that we've identified off our milk recording reports and we want to select her out for beef rather than scrolling down the list, we can go to this top left hand corner here and select out, maybe it's whatever tag number there, and we've filtered it straight down and we have our list there, and we can select for beef. So as I say, save as you go, and that way we won't lose any information. Similarly as well, if we wanted to work off EBIs, and we could say that maybe we don't want to breed any animal less than 140 EBI in this herd, it's a high EBI herd. We can do that here by selecting out on the EBI filter at the top here. So if you can see where my mouse is there, we're putting from 140. So all animals left in our selection are going to be over 140 EBI. And then we can, or we can pull out the lower ones either, and we can go to 140. And there's our list, maybe potentially that we could put beef straws across. So look at that's the female selection side of things. And I suppose, as I mentioned earlier, if you're going to get the value back out of your milk recording, so there's a bit of effort and a bit of time and money goes into milk recording. So if you're going to get that value back out of it, it's about spending the little bit of time here to go through your reports and to pull out the animals that you're not going to breed your future replacements off of. And that's where you really see the benefits and the payback on your milk recording. So when you have that done, then I suppose you're going up to the top right hand corner here and you're going to click next. So the next side of it then is going to look at the bull selection element. And what we're going to have here is we're going to have access to all the bulls potentially available in the country. So look at this tool, I suppose it's designed. So we've mentioned about sitting down and giving the time to make your breeding decisions. It's the most important decision you'll make for your herd in the year. And the effects will be cumulative over time if you make the right decisions. But similarly, if you don't start and make the right decisions today or this year, you're going to have the potentially not as good impact into the future. So look at this program here, I suppose, it takes the trawling through the AI catalogs out of the whole scenario. You're able to very quickly sort through all the bulls available via certain criteria without having to trawl through catalog on top of catalog. So look at, I'm going to start here and I'm going to go to the bull selection side on the top left, and I'm just going to click all AI bulls there. So that's going to open it up to all the bulls available. And I suppose the focus of this of today, maybe, and Sandra has outlined maybe the gains that we can make by using sex semen. So again, we can narrow the amount of females that we have to breed, or the amount of cows or heifers that have to be bred. And that's going to mean that we're able to make quicker genetic gain because we're really only selecting out the best cows to breed off of for the future replacements. So if I wanted to pick potentially bulls that are only available in sex semen, I'm going to scroll down the list here. So along the left hand side, I have all these different options for things that I can select or criteria that I can put in for my team of bulls. So if I go down to the very bottom here, you'll see the sexed option. And I have the option of conventional or sex semen. So conventional are just our normal straws that we're all well used to at this stage. So if I unselect that, now what I'm left with is only bulls that are available in sex semen. So straight away there, I've saved an awful lot of going through catalogs and trawling through information. So now we're looking at bulls that are only available in sex semen, and now I'm going to put in the criteria. So what criteria do I want those bulls to meet? So in terms of EBI here, just a point to note, the figure in brackets here, that's the figure for the individual herd. So if you're going in on your own herd plus sire advice, that figure in brackets is your EBI figure, and similarly you'll see it for the sub-indexes all the way along. The brackets figure is your own. So if we want to make genetic gain, we need to select bulls that are higher than your own figure in the brackets there. So I'm just going to pull from left to right. I'm going to pull the slider across, and I'm going to select bulls that have a higher than 280 EBI. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're just pulling from left to right. So that's going to sort us. We still have 86 bulls out of available 300 that we originally had. Okay, so you'll see that here in the top, the number of bulls that are still available. Okay, so if we want to look at the EBI sub-indexes then, um, so we're just going to pull, I suppose, Sandra mentioned how important fertility is in terms of future profitability for your herd. So if we pull the fertility, you'll see that this herd has a very strong fertility sub-index of 109. But if we want to make genetic gain, we're going to have to pick bulls that are higher than that. So I'm just going to set the fertility there at 120. Similarly on the milk, if we want to make gains, we're going to have a higher figure than in the brackets. So I'm going to pull that across to 80. So I'm pulling from left to right, which is going to rule out all the bulls that are lower than that figure. So again, then I suppose health is always an important feature. I always say you can breed the best genetics in the world, but if it's a cow that's going to fall out of your herd due to cell count or lameness issues, that's not any good to either. So we need to have a healthy, balanced cow is what we're trying to breed. So I'd always pick bulls with a positive health sub-index at least. So again, pulling from left to right, I'm going to set that at 0. So look, we can pull the different sub-indexes and rule out bulls. So maintenance, for example, is your cow size going into the future, and calving sub-index. So look, we can pull from left to right there based on our criteria, but the main ones are always going to be, you want to pick high fertility bulls with positive health sub-indexes, and then we'll get down into the milk side of things as well. So that's our sub-indexes. If we go down further down the list on the left, we have our milk production. So if we click on that there, so I suppose the goal, in an Irish system, in an Irish milk price system, is always to maximize the kilos of fat and protein that we can produce, but mainly through good percentages rather than excessive volume, I suppose. So look at this is our milk kgs figure. So this is our volume basically. So if we want to pull from left to right, we can rule out the very high volume bulls there, and we're still going to aim to achieve high milk solids, but not necessarily just by pure volume alone. So I'm going to rule out bulls that are over 200 kilos of milk. And I'm going to also rule out maybe the very lower yielding bulls there as well. So I can pull from left to right or from right to left. So that's the window now that I'm left with, only bulls within that range. So look at, as we mentioned, we want good, strong kilos of fat and protein. So again, I'm pulling from left to right, and I suppose I can pull these as far as I want, and eventually I'll be left with no bulls if I set the bar too high. So it's about, I suppose, we're trying to breed a balanced cow going forward, and we want to tick a nice few boxes if we can. So look at, I suppose, fat and protein percent. Again, Sandra has mentioned how important that's going to be. For me, it's like a fixed milk price scheme that the best one you can enter into. If you have high fat and protein percent, you're going to get a top up on your milk price regardless of whether it's a good year or a bad year. So massively important going forward. So there we have, I suppose, we're starting to shorten our list. We're down to 12 bulls at this stage that are available in sex semen, but are meeting all the other criteria that we've put in. So you can move your sliders as far or as near as you want to achieve what you want to achieve in your breeding goals, I suppose. So just, I suppose, quickly to show you some of the other features, if you're only purchasing from certain AI companies, we can click on unclick, I suppose, whichever AI companies we don't want to pick bulls from. We can also pick on other different things there. But I suppose for some of you we're looking at sex semen in particular here, I suppose, and bulls that are available in sex semen, and a lot of people are probably going to try that out and see how they get on and dip their toe in the water with it for the first year. And the most fertile animals, I suppose, to try that out on is going to be your heifers, I suppose. So when we're talking about picking bulls for heifers, I suppose one of the things we're always very conscious of is that we have easy calving bulls for those first calvers. So if out of this list of 12, I suppose, we want to see, are any of these suitable for breeding to heifers? So if we go into the calving drop down option here, we can pick out bulls. Now, for me, we want to have a bit of information. We want to know that those bulls have had calves and they're on the ground, and we can have, we know that there's a bit of records there backing up their figures. So for me, I'm just after pulling calving records across. So all the bulls now that I'm left with have more than 1,000 calving records on the ground. Even though I've only set it at 600 there, we've come out with all over 1,000. So I'd be very confident in their figures, that they're going to yield. I'd have a lot of confidence in those calving figures. So then if we want to pull, if we're talking about heifers, we're looking at our dairy heifer calving difficulty. And again, we're going to pull from right to left this time to rule out the bulls that are harder calving. So look at, for a heifer, we're generally going to set the bar at around 5% calving difficulty. So you can see now straight away our criteria has shortened us up in our options. So we're going to have to maybe go back and look at some of the things and maybe relax a little bit of the criteria, and we should get more options available to us. So you'll see there. So we're being quite selective, I suppose, on what we're picking on, but we've 2 bulls there now available based off that current criteria. So as I say, if you look for too much, sometimes your list will get very short very quick. But if you give yourself a little bit more wriggle room, you'll come up with more options, hopefully. So look at, I suppose, how once we have identified animals that we're hopefully going to use in our team of bulls, we can then go and we can select them out for their breeding. So I'll just see here now. So basically, how do we select out a bull there based for our team of bulls? So we're going across here onto the right, and we can go select bull. So this is a bull here that we're confident should be easy calving, is available in sex semen, and we can use that for heifers. So we click the heifer box and we go save selection. Okay, similarly again, we go back out, we select bull, and we're going to use that on heifers. So looking from a demonstration point of view there, ideally we'd have probably 3 bulls to pick for the heifers, but just in the interest of time there, we're going to keep moving with what we have. So look at, I suppose that's if we're looking at heifers in particular. If we relax our calving difficulty figures and we relax our number of records, straight away we have a far wider selection of bulls available, based on for suitability for cows, I suppose. So again, we have all our criteria. We can push it a little bit further again on the sub indexes. So we'll shorten our list there. So again, for the rest of the team, it's just a case of going across to the right there. We know that all the bulls are going to meet the criteria that we've set. So we can just go and we can click on them all, select for cow, save selection, click out again and back in again. So again, in the interest of time, I'm not going to to keep going too much longer. But one figure just to watch up the top right hand corner of your screen is your bull team reliability. So at the moment we've only selected 5 bulls in our team. We can click in there to view them if we want to. So they're the 5 bulls that we've currently picked. But for a herd of this size, that's really not enough to ensure the reliability of the team. So you'll see there we're coming up at 88% reliability, but that figure has to be over 90 really if we're going to have faith in the team going forward. So again, what that's telling me is that we need to pick more bulls for our team, and we can do that as we go along. So look at, we're getting into the green now, but really we could do it a few more. So again, in the interest of time, I'm just going to keep moving. So we can also have a feature here to compare bulls. If we press on the little magnifying glass there, we can pull up bulls and view them individually, if we wanted to compare individual bulls in that sense. So look at, I'm just going to keep moving here. So that's the cow side of things. So as I said, we've had a focus on bulls available in sex semen for this criteria. But if we want to go back out and look at all bulls in conventional and sexed, our list has got a lot longer again. So now we have bulls available in both, so we can pick on those as well if we're. So basically that's how you pick your team of bulls. To move on then through the selection, we can go next in the top right corner. But before I do that, I suppose the other emphasis we're trying to put, I suppose, is if we have used a bit of sex semen, or even potentially if we've just good conception rights and we're using conventional semen, there is still scope, I suppose, to breed some of those poor performing cows to dairy beef. And the dairy beef index is the go-to index, I suppose, for identifying bulls to put on the dairy herd. So if we go back up to the top left hand corner again, I have the option for beef bulls here. So I'm going to click on that. So what are we trying to achieve, I suppose, in picking beef bulls for the dairy herd? I suppose one of the main things is we want a saleable calf that's capable of being moved off the farm, I suppose, in good health and has good potential beef traits for future, because we want those buyers to come back year after year. So in order to do that, I suppose obviously one of the priorities is going to be low calving difficulty and maybe short gestation. But within that, we want to pick out the best beef merit bulls that are ticking that criteria. So this feature now is a new addition to the Sire Advice program, where we can select out our beef bulls that are going to be most suited to our herd. So again, it's the same principle. We have breed up the top left, so we can pick purely based on breed if we want to. We can select out for the different breeds there by ticking the box, or we can leave them all available. So I suppose the dairy beef index is our go-to index. So what we'd be saying is to pick bulls, I suppose, with a DBI of 90 plus. So I'm going to pull from left to right again, and I'm going to pick 90. So just a little tip, I suppose, or trick, I suppose, while you're pulling from left to right, this is only available in a desktop version. Anyway, it's not available on phones. So if you're at your computer and you're pulling from left to right, you see there I've landed on 93, and maybe I wanted to set it at 90. It can be quite hard to pull to the exact figure you want to. So if you're either side of it, you can just use the arrow keys on your keyboard to go one by one. So I'm just pressing my left arrow key, and that's going to bring me to 90. Or similarly, I can up it there and go in single increments without pulling it. So that's just a little tip, I suppose, that's handy. So as I said, obviously we want an easy calving bull, with potentially short gestation again. So I'm going to go into my calving. As I said, we've all beef bulls now is what we're picking on our criteria. Again, so I want a bit of backing behind the calving data there. So I'm going to pull that just to make sure, look at least all these bulls have 500 calves on the ground. So I know that there's a bit of weight behind that calving difficulty figure. So again, now calving difficulty, I suppose, is something that you're going to have to decide what you're willing to accept in your own herd, depending on your cow size, depending on a few different factors there. But I'm just going to pull again from left to right, and I'm going to pull that and just see where I end up. So I'm just going to pull it there. I'm just slightly over 3 there. So look at it again. You can do the same on the heifers, and you can pull from left to right. But we're just looking, I suppose, at bulls, maybe for cows, for beef matings at this stage. So again, maybe gestation is important to you. You can pull from left to right and only select out bulls there that are on the shorter side of the gestation. So I've just set it there, just slightly over 0. So look at, again, some farmers will be more willing to accept a little bit longer gestation or a little bit harder calving than others, and that's just a decision you'll have to make for your own farm and your own cow type, I suppose, in particular. So the other thing we want to do is maybe we can have a look at the beef traits. So again, as we said, we're trying to improve the beef merit of these dairy calves, that to make sure we have a saleable calf that's capable of being moved off the farm to have good beef traits going forward. So again, we can pull from left to right, and depending how far we go, again, we're going to be left with very few or a lot of bulls. So look at, I suppose, straight away there, I suppose we have a few bulls that are ticking a lot of boxes, some strong dairy beef index bulls. If we were to look there, so we can pick out some of them potentially to use, and they'll be put against the cows that we've already selected for beef mating. So again, it's the same again, beef matings for cow. We've no heifers currently selected for beef mating, so that's why it's not showing up there. So again, we can pick a couple of bulls, maybe not put all our eggs in one basket again. So you'll see these are all very strong dairy beef index sires, and we'll just pick them there. So now we've 3 beef bulls that we're happy are going to be easy calving, short gestation, but also have strong beef merits as well. So that's all we do there. And again, then we go to the top right-hand corner and we click next. So look at, there's the option there. If there was a particular bull that you had spotted in the catalogue that you wanted to add in here, you have the option to manually enter a bull. Just click on the option here, but we're just going to keep going. So there's the team of bulls we've picked, and as I said, we don't want to play around with the straw allocation too much. We want to use those bulls evenly across the whole team. So I'm just going to click next. So these are the bulls we picked for the heifers. So as again, I said, you'd probably prefer to have a third one there, and these are the beef sires that we've selected as well. So they're just another check on what we have in there. So I'm just clicking next in the top right hand corner again, and I'm going through the different screens. So what's happening now is those bulls that we've picked and the cows that we've picked for the different matings are being matched up. And what the program is doing, and possibly one of the best things the program is doing, is it's helping us to avoid inbreeding. So the way AI codes have gone now, it's very hard to keep track of who's related to who in terms of avoiding inbreeding. So what the program is doing there is it's running a background check, and it's making sure that we don't allocate any bull to a cow that's too closely related to the bull. So we know that any of the selections off the Sire Advice program are going to prevent too high a level of inbreeding. So there we have our list then of dairy matings and beef matings. So some of these animals we had selected out for beef only, and it's only allocating a beef bull. And similarly on the dairy options, it's doing the same. So we have 3 bulls. So potentially when your AI man comes into the yard, he mightn't have the first straw available to him. So we have a second option there that he can use, and even a third one. So that's going to make sure that we're still avoiding inbreeding, but we have 3 different options there for each individual mating. So look at, that's the web version. If we go accept up the top right hand corner here, we'll be able to run a report. So we have the option to send that information directly to the AI man's handheld device. So when he comes into the yard, he punches in the cow's tag number. He knows straight away what straw to give what animal, which is a great way of saving time during a busy spell during the breeding season. We can also click on View PDF. So what that will do is it'll give us a sheet that we can print off and have to hand. So this is also the Sire Advice report. So Sandra has shown you this already. So we have the cows' current EBIs, we have the bulls team's EBI that we've picked, and we have the prediction on the calves. Now that prediction, I suppose, doesn't take into account the cows that we knocked off based on beef AI. So in reality, when you do pick out cows just solely for beef matings, your predicted 2024 calves EBIs will actually be higher than what's shown on the report. So look at, as I said, the main things we want to do, we want to improve the herd fertility. We're achieving that here. We want to improve the overall EBI, the milk sub-indexes, the percentages for fat and protein, and the kilos of fat and protein. So look at, we're achieving all those things, and we have our list of bulls then available. If we scroll down further, we have our list of beef bulls. So there are 3 beef bulls that we select out, and then we also have the cows and the matchings up. So again, any cow we allocated to beef is only given a beef bull, and we have our 3 options for the dairy as well. So if you scroll down the list further, you'll get your heifers as well. So look at it. For me, it's a fantastic way of saving time, I suppose, looking through your catalogue, and only being able to quickly identify bulls that meet all the criteria that you've set out. We've now got a tool that we can pick bulls based on sex semen, and we can pick our beef bulls based on those traits as well. So, you know, if it does take a little bit of time, I suppose, but it's well worth the effort. And as I say, the decisions you make can have massive benefits for your herd into the future, and it deserves every bit of time to give at I know a busy time of the year, but if anyone is having problems, they can always contact their advisor as well for help getting through the screens. So that's my presentation, and if anyone has questions, they're welcome.
Perfect, Nigel. Yeah, great demonstration of it. As you said, like it's a must for all farms preparing for the breeding season to pick the bulls. Just Pat probably has a few questions there as well. I'm just reading down through a few, but just on 7,000 kilos, one question is coming in from the South Kilkenny. 7,000 kilo cow. If I use a bull of minus 200, but she has high solids. I'm looking for high solids, but there's low volume in water, I suppose. Is that possible to get fined, or does it have any effect on solids overall if she's minus 200 kilos of milk?
Yeah, so look at, I suppose, kilograms of fat and protein is a combination of the volume multiplied by the percentages. So there is a factor in there. I suppose what the program is allowing you to do is to identify those outliers that are very strong on percentages. What I'd say, Richie, is it's probably going to be hard to get a bull that'll maybe tick the other boxes for you as well. I suppose you can be narrow focused in your criteria, and you will pick outliers there, but if you want them to tick all the boxes, sometimes you have to be a bit more general. But it mightn't be that you go minus 200, but you might set it at 0 and pick up bulls on very high strong percentages that'll still deliver decent kilos of fat and protein.
Okay, and there was a question came through there a bit on banding and, you know, decisions around banding, and if I was at the 6,500, you know, how would that affect my breeding decisions?
Yeah, I suppose, look, for us, the advice hasn't changed in many respects, in that we always strove to achieve good levels of milk solids production off a relative volume, I suppose. You know, there's no point in you can have 2 bulls there, I suppose. I could show it to you on maybe some of the reports, but you could have 2 bulls delivering the very same kilos of fat and protein. One of them is driving it from volume, and one of them is driving percentages. And we always strove for that bull that was stronger on percentages, because it's going to be a more profitable in an A plus B minus C milk pricing system anyway. So for a herd that's trying to achieve a good level of milk solids in a banding scenario, the advice is still the same: to pick high percentages bulls delivering good kilos of fat and protein off of a modest volume, I suppose. And that's why we'd set that criteria. Some people will pull that slider on the volume a little bit harder and maybe only select from plus 100 back, and that's not bad a decision to do that either.
And
Yeah.
those, as you said, now those criteria are based on profit. That drives the profit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, Pat, is there any other questions coming through?
I suppose just 2 quick ones there. Farmers put in a question here. You know, the difference, genomic bulls versus daughter proven. You can make a comment there that you didn't make any comment there or pick reliability as a parameter for picking bulls. So he's asking the question: genomic bulls versus daughter proven.
Yeah, I suppose if you look back at the data, and ICBF have done a lot of, I suppose, looking at the information on this, and if you take the daughter-proven bulls of the day versus the genomic bulls, there's no point in saying genomic bulls are falling in their EBIs, but when you look at the data and you go back and you compare the bulls over the years, the genomic bulls are so far ahead on EBI. When they actually fall, they're still maintaining an advantage over the daughter proven bulls, and that's the figure on that is about €30 ahead. So even though the genomic bulls are falling, they're still maintaining €30 of an EBI higher than the daughter proven. And by picking a team of bulls and even usage across that team, we minimize our risks of relying too much on one bull that could potentially fall, I suppose. So that's the important point, is pick a team of bulls, appropriate number of bulls for the herd size, use them evenly across it, and our genomic bulls are going to deliver more genetic gain for you in the long run than the daughter proven ones, I suppose.
Okay, just second one very quickly. It's a good question. Thing. Can I get, this question says here, can I get a dairy beef index on a beef stock bull that I buy at the sale each year?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you Google ICBF bull search and you enter the tag number of that bull, you should be able to pull up the beef merits for that individual bull. So it's a great tool as well to look at a stock bull. Yeah.
That's
Okay,
it, Richie. I suppose there was a question about the banding. I think there's some mention of banding in the news today. Maybe just to remind our viewers tonight.
Yeah. So look at, I suppose, dairy farmers are required to submit which band they're going to be in going forward, and they need to do so before the end of the month, I suppose, and that's done through ICBF. So you can log into your own ICBF accounts and submit your nitrates band from there.